Hey, this is Jens Nielsen. If you want to learn how to use your small axe to build an empire, you should be listening to the Small Axe podcast with my good friend Nico.
Hey guys, it's your boy Nico here from the Small Axe Podcast. I want to show you how to use your small axe to build a lasting empire. You see, not everybody begins their investing career with millions of dollars, a huge network of investors, or the knowledge necessary to become successful in this space, and that's okay. What I focus on here on this podcast is helping you hone your skills, sharpen your tools to become the best investor that you can be. Now, I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this show. If you have any questions or you want to reach out to me or the guest, feel free to do so. Love you guys. Hey, Small Axe community, it's your boy Nico here, and today I got a really cool guy that's coming on to join me for this show. If you don't know him, his name is Jens Nielsen, really cool dude. He's the co-founder and managing member of Incrementum Equity Partners. Mr. Nielsen oversees the company's acquisition analysis, business development activities, and asset management. He also co-directs Incrementum Equity Partners' overall investment strategy. He brings to the company over 25 years of experience in computer system management and organizational leadership. Prior to forming Incrementum Equity Partners with Jason Perro, Mr. Nielsen was founder and principal of Open Doors Capital, a private real estate investment firm that have purchased over 2,000 apartment units since 2016 at a value of over $150 million. Prior to his entrepreneurial activities with Open Doors Capital, Mr. Nielsen held leadership and technical roles in telecommunication IT companies around the world, where he specialized in cost reduction, system optimization, and standardization. He graduated summa cum laude from the University of Maryland with a Master of Science degree. Let's get him on the show. Hey, Jens, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nico. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today.
Yes, I'm excited to finally get to know you a little bit better. I know my listeners are as well. So why don't we take a minute or so just to kind of go over your background a little bit more in depth and talk a little bit about your journey and how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. So maybe people can, from my accent and from my name, I wasn't born in this country. I was born in Denmark, but immigrated to the U.S. in 1996. So it's been a couple of years. I've lived about half my life in the U.S., and did the typical path. Got my degree, went to college here, got my master's degree in computer science, worked for a handful of different corporations throughout my life. And then in my mid-40s, I realized that I had another 20 plus years of work, or 25 years of work in that business. I was like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I wanted something that had a meaningful impact on my income, my financial future. And I realized I wasn't W-2 anymore. So about 7 years ago, I discovered real estate through podcasts and books, and I thought, oh, you need to go and buy real estate in your own account. Got a few fourplexes and some smaller deals by myself, and it's like, wow, this is really exciting. Really just started down that path. And also at some point realized that I wanted to bring this opportunity to friends and family and others that didn't have the time to do their own deals. So, in 2018, 2019, we started with joint ventures and then moved into that syndication space that we've been in since then. I've since left my W-2 job. I now do this, full time. And, it's just been great. Done like 20 deals, I think, here in the last 4 or 5 years. So that's been pretty exciting.
Oh, that's amazing, Jens. Now, to talk a little bit about location, where are you? Where are you based and where are you investing now?
Yeah. So I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Obviously, that's a small town with a very high prices. So I don't have anything here. I did start in Albuquerque, New Mexico, because I was living in and around, the Southwest. So Albuquerque made sense, 7-8 years ago. I still own a handful of units there, but have since started investing in new markets, in the Midwest, like Oklahoma. We have a couple of deals. Cleveland, Ohio, we have quite a few deals, and also in Western Pennsylvania, in and around Erie, Pennsylvania. And we can get into why those markets, but that's pretty much where we focus right now, upper Midwest.
That's phenomenal, Jens. I mean, I've heard of people investing in all of those markets for the probably the same reasons that you are. They are great markets. And do you travel to those markets frequently? What was your initial thought process with investing in those markets, or did you was your partner interested in those markets, or how did that come about?
Yeah, basically it came about because my now partner, he has been living in Western Pennsylvania for the last, well, his whole life, but he's been investing there for the last 22, 23 years. So it made sense to basically attach ourselves to his infrastructure. So he's vertically integrated, has his own property management, construction, and everything else. So it's just a way for me to help him grow versus me starting out completely new. I would not have gone up there probably to invest because it's just, it's far away. But now I travel there, regularly, and we really work hard on growing and become incredibly effective and efficient in those markets.
That's wonderful. Jens, how did you meet him? Because I talked to a lot of, I also have a meetup group, which I've been running for 3 years now. And I talked to a lot of pretty new investors, and they're always trying to figure out how to find a partner, how to find a market, and then it's how to find the deal and how to find the money. But it always begins with a partnership and a market. So maybe talk a little bit about how you found your partner.
Yeah, I think one of the key things as a new investor, right? We end up having like limiting beliefs in what we think we can achieve, and we think too small, and we're like, oh, I'll just try to do it by myself for a while. This is like me. And it wasn't until I realized that I had to surround myself with people that were quote unquote ahead of me, somebody who had done this for a while, and that I could start adding some value to. And I needed to get some training and just a peer group. So there's a million different programs out there. So 5 years ago I joined one of those multifamily coaching programs, and I was able to, I went to those events and I got inspired by meeting people. And on one of these events I met my now partner, and we just he was there. He'd been doing it for quite some time. We sat down, we talked, and we just kind of we had a connection, a personal connection, and that turned into a friendship and a partnership and so forth. So I think, to answer your question, you got to go to different events, conferences, a meetup, just like you, I run my own meetup here. Just get out there, because I'm a little bit of an introvert. So sitting here behind my computer is not going to yield me any partners, right? You got to get out there and do that. So that's just, spend the money to go travel. If you need to join a coaching program, hire a coach, that's really super important in my opinion.
So I firmly believe in networking, meeting people, going to events, and also mentorship. And we'll kind of like go in that order. If we're not constantly networking and talking to people or being in front of people that are doing what we want to do, we're not going to be relevant in this space. And no matter how hard it is for people like you or me who feel that maybe we're a little, less social, it is extremely important. And I get a sense of energy every time I leave one of those rooms, So that's, I think, one key ingredient that you mentioned. And another thing is coaching and mentorship. I mean, you can't really do any of that. You're competing against high-level professionals. And if you don't have a coach or a mentor behind you, it's just going to take a lot longer, I feel. So
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, how do you feel about coaching and mentorship, and what have you taken away from it with your program?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it started out by surrounding myself with people that were doing this, and I got inspired by it. I had a choice, right? I either try to level up and hang with them, or I would have to just flush out and go and do something else, right? So I stepped up, right, and started partnering with them, and that was really the key thing, was having that inspiration of seeing people just like you that had already done it. So I really loved that. That was a bit more the networking and those partnership. Then obviously the coaching, and I think the most impactful thing for me on the coaching was, in the beginning of the pandemic, right? Everybody's scared and nobody wants to do deals, and the sky is falling. at that time, right, I hired my own high performance coach to really start working on my mindset, because I had figured out the technical aspects of it. I could do that, but my mindset wasn't quite there yet to actually quit my job, take massive action, and all these things. So I hired my own coach there, and it totally changed my life, right? Because he was able to help me see through all these challenges of these limiting beliefs I had. So that helped me a lot. And I got so inspired by it that's like, I want to become a coach too. So I had done some mentoring for newer investors, but I wanted to become a coach. I really wanted to learn that. So, in 2019, I got certified as a high performance coach. And while I was still been working with my coach, I started in coaching, newer investor all in that space. And it's helped, I've helped a lot of people move towards financial freedom, leaving their job, have better relationships and all these things. So it is the most important thing, I think, in anything, is to have somebody to hold your hand and guide you and encourage you and hold you accountable and all these things. So I love it.
Oh, absolutely. Now, was there any fear involved? I mean, you're talking about spending money on a coach, that there's no guarantee that it'll work and that you're going to leave your W-2. What were you afraid at all? Did you have any people relying on you, or what was that transition like?
So I mean, yeah, I mean, it definitely was scary to write out a check to pay for my coach, right? I mean, it was scary. Bless, my dear wife. She was always incredibly supportive. So she was there. Hey, you've always been successful, right? And with the guidance of my coach, we're able to work through those fears. And I think the second part of your question, leaving the job, right? What did that look like? Well, I had done a few deals. I had some savings. I was doing some coaching on the side, right? So I was able to see, okay, there's a huge opportunity cost for me to stay in my W-2 job, because I didn't have time to deal with all these things and raise money and find deals. So as soon as I stepped away, the trajectory just went from kind of like, to like the hockey stick, right? Because I had the time. So I think too many people, they look at things too linearly and they say, okay, well, I've done one deal, this year, so it means I can only do one next year. No. If you quit your job, you can probably do 5 or 10 deals or whatever that it looks like, and you just scale so quickly.
Jens, I am getting inspired. So I firmly believe in education and mentorship and training. I'm a school teacher as my W-2 still, and I've been doing that for 20 years now. And the gratification I get from seeing a student go from one point to another point is just undescribable. So I can probably see you feeling the same way with your students. So with your particular program, how is it designed?
Yeah, so this is, what's called high performance coaching. It is through, Brendan Bouchard was the guy who kind of developed it. And it all comes down to developing people's clarity. What do you truly want, right? You said you were a school teacher, so, you love the education as piece, but what is that amazing life that you want for yourself? And we need to make sure that we have a clear vision, because we tend to set goals first. Oh, I want, multifamily. Is like, why? Why is that important, right? Is it time? Is it money? Is it impact on the community? Whatever it is. So vision. Then we talk about energy. Do you have the right mental and physical energy to get the work done? Do you have the productivity to get it done, right? Do you have the influence, the courage and the influence to go out there and, find partners and investors, talk to brokers, whatever that is, right? So we really focus on the clarity, energy, productivity, courage, and influence. Once those things are kind of established, people tend to take a lot of action and move forward, because they get so clear on where they need to go.
Sign me up, Jens. I love it. Honestly, I really, I get so excited, and every day. So I'm my own best cheerleader, and every day I charge myself up, and I have a goal set, and I run through them, and I work really hard. It would be really nice to have somebody to bounce ideas off of, because at this point it's been over 3 years now since I had my own personal mentor, and I think I'm ready for a new one, man. So kudos to that.
Let's talk.
How would people find your particular program? I know we're not up to that yet, but I would love to know more a little bit about how maybe you have a website or something.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I actually don't advertise my coaching because it's by referrals, it's by one-on-one connections. I really, I can only handle so many clients, so I don't advertise because I'm supposed to be overrun. So it's, they can look up Brendan Burchard, High Performance Habits. That's what it's based on. So I'm trained and in that model, and that's basically the model we use. It's very effective. It's been researched to really help people. So I don't really advertise my coaching. It's just referrals.
Excellent, man. I love it. Let's circle back for a minute now to your partnership. First of all, I forgot your partner's name, but you mentioned that his role was more of the asset management or the property management role, and he's vertically integrated. What is your main role with him, and what is his name?
Yeah, so his name is Jason Peril, and so he's basically the relationship guy, right? So if you ever, I think it's behind me, the EOS book. So he's the visionary in our relationship. He's the guy who has the dreams and can see, look at a crappy property and say, okay, this can actually become something amazing, um, and have all those relationships, right? So he does that. I do more of the back end, the underwriting, the asset management, just the system and the processes, because 25 years in IT has taught me all these things, right? So we have we drive each other crazy at times too, but in the end, we have very complementary skills that does help us get stuff done, right? Because you probably know, you run a meetup, you've probably seen a bunch of analytical people that doesn't take any action, right? And then you have these gung-ho guys that want to do stuff, but they haven't really made sure that this actually makes sense, right? So finding that balance, I think, is incredibly important.
Yes, very well put, Jens. Okay. So how did you guys, you mentioned in the beginning, you were doing your own deals and then you partnered up with Jason, and then you did some joint ventures, and then you moved on to syndications. How were those first syndications? Was it difficult to raise capital, or what was that like?
Yes, I mean, I did the first deal with him in 2019, and I was a small piece, right? He had some other partners, and I can't remember, raised 500, $700,000 as that partnership. And that got me in the game, and it really started me to see, because I didn't know much about it. So got me in the game, but I had enough kind of credibility with my investors, my list of people, to say, well, we're joining an experienced team. They've done this for 20 years, right? We have it kind of covered. That helped me create that credibility. And then as I started learning, I was like, okay, now I understand what's going on. What did we do well? What didn't we do so well? So as we moved forward, I was over time able to just kind of grow my value to the team, more underwriting, more capital raising, more running the systems, and so forth, right? So over time, it has increased. I mean, him and I have done a few deals, just him and I, which is amazing. You have 50% of the GP. That's a great deal. That's not, maybe a $5 million deal, the two of us. So that we've increased that. So, but we also opportunistic, some deals that are we just closed 186 unit like a week ago. That was a $5.5 million raise. So we expanded the team to make sure we could get the capital for that. So but we tend to do the stuff together, and then we add team members as needed to make it a reality.
Excellent. So I would personally like to know a little bit more about some of the systems that you use, because I'm also a small syndicator at this point. I've only done a couple deals, but would love to learn, because I can see it getting complicating and muddled already. So what do you guys use?
Yeah, I mean, so basically we use the EOS, the traction of the enterprise operating system. That's kind of the business model. The model for running our business. Accountability, weekly meetings, rocks, to-dos, and so forth. That's kind of the process we use, right? But we have now, set meetings where we discuss our financials compared to our budgets. We have set meetings for managing the contractors and so forth. So we have those meetings, and then we track everything in Asana. We track everything. Now we're running, RealPage for all our, property management and financing and so forth, right? So we're building those systems. It's always a little bit of trial and error for what works for us, right? But accountability, scorecards, and then, Asana for the to-do lists and everything else, right? So it's a process, but we're working through it for sure.
Excellent. And how do you communicate with investors, or how often do you communicate with investors per property? Because I mean, since you have a number of properties at this point, it could be overwhelming with all that communication.
Yeah, so we do use, we have a platform that we raise money through, use Syndication Pro to raise money through. So every investor is then, in there, and then we can basically just send out updates through that. We tend to, do quarterly updates. There's a few that we have some partners that insist on monthly updates, and they tend to write them. So it varies monthly to quarterly updates. I think most investors are happy with the quarterly update because they're like, hey, I'm busy with my life. I don't need to know every month over month what's happening, right? So,
Right.
Yeah.
Unless there's maybe some sort of crisis or something, I'm sure you'd want to communicate that. Jens, how are you feeling about today's environment with higher interest rates, higher insurance, high taxes, and the world essentially falling apart?
No, it's been a challenging, year, right? I mean, we're closing deals in 2019, 2020, 21, and interest rates in the threes, right, and stuff. And now this latest one was in the 6%. So a couple of things, right? I mean, we had some challenges when we were underwriting CapEx before everything went crazy, where we came in under budget on our CapEx. It just literally, we needed more money for that, right? So that has been some challenges on holding back on distributions or so forth, right? I think what we've seen has been a bit of an adjustment in the pricing. So now, this latest deal we did, that started out at a much higher price than we ended up getting it at. So I'm seeing price adjustments, especially in some markets, probably not everywhere. I mean, if you have a good deal and it's cash flowing, you got a low interest rate, why would you want to sell? But there's always people that need to sell, and this is a seller that was just checked out. So we were able to get it at a reasonable price. We got bank debt on there, which is obviously more expensive, but it still will work for us.
Excellent. Yeah, sounds good. And I try to stick to my criteria of a certain cash on cash, a certain IRR when I'm looking at deals and analyzing deals, a certain equity multiple. And that means, like you're saying, so we have to adjust the price often. And some sellers are willing to play ball and some are not. And it's just the way it is. And some people say we're shifting towards, or have shifted towards, a buyer's market, or almost there. And I think that it's a perfect buying opportunity if we are going into a buyer's market, right? And then eventually it'll be a seller's market again. So we have to believe in real estate, as I do, that there are market shifts and different types of markets. So I think that it's important just to stick to our criteria when we're acquiring deals.
Yeah.
What do the next year or so, or what does the future look like for you and your team?
Yeah, and I want to maybe, before we go to that, Nico, I want to maybe address everybody who did who bought multifamily in like 2018, 2019 looked like geniuses when they sold it a couple of years later with 2x, 3x multiplier. We did one that was like 3.5x, right? That was not because we were particularly good at what we're doing, that we just rode the market and we were lucky to sell, right? That is not going to be the reality for a lot of the deals that are being made or done last year, this year. Now we're probably back in what it really means. It's good operations. It is a solid business plan. It's good reserves, a good team. And, most of these deals probably have to be held for 5, 7, 10 years, right? If we're changing our communication with our investors that, okay, this deal won't cash flow for 2 years because we have to do all this work. We're going to hold it for 7 to 10 years. And it's a different conversation, but I think investors that have started to see that, they realize that, okay, that's fine, right? So I just think there's a new conversation to our investors. So I just wanted to share that. What's next? Well, as I said, we just closed 186 units. So getting that deal, taken care of and up and running and rehabbed is the big thing, right? We do have a few other things. I feel like right now it's a little bit of a time to strengthen our systems, to build up our asset management, our reporting, our all those new systems really strengthen that, because we have grown very quickly, and at times it's a little bit chaotic. So that's really a key job for us. But I know that Jason's going to come next month and say, I got another deal. Like, okay, well, let's see how we can figure that out.
You'll make it work, right?
Somehow.
Excellent, Jens. Okay, let's do this. Let's get to our final question and then some form of contact where my listeners can reach out to you. So Jens, let's imagine it was 100 years from now. You have great grandchildren, or there are heirs of yours running around as happy as can be. They wanted to write a book about you. What would you want them to title this book?
It would be, he had a great positive impact on everybody that he met. That's a long title, but something to that effect.
That's not long at all. I think that's perfect. And it really does speak to who you are. I can tell from your personality, your vibes, your energy. I can absolutely tell that you are a positive person who does have positive impact on the world. So thank you for what you do, Jens.
Thank you.
All right, let's get the listeners some form of reaching out to you.
I'm old school, so they can email me, Jens, Jens, at opendoors with an S, capital.com, opendoorscapital.com. And if anybody wants to jump on a free call, they can go to opendoorscapital.com/call and get on a free call with me, 15-minute call there. And as I mentioned, so me and my partner, we are rebranding ourselves. So our new company name will be Incrementum Equity, and there's a website out there too that's been launched as well. But my old email is probably still the best way to get hold of me.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jens. I learned a lot about your journey and how you operate, and I am inspired to go look up another coach or mentor, or possibly you. So thank you so much for sharing today.
Absolutely, Nico. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
All right. Hey, Small Axe community. I would like to say thank you for listening to another episode of my podcast, where we show you how to use your small axe to build a lasting empire. Now, if you liked what you heard, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. Also, if you want to get in touch with me, go to my website at smalaxecommunities.com. Book a call with me. And until the next episode, keep sharpening those axes.